Hello, I want to share some material and information on Torre Glacier in the FitzRoy area of El Chalten in Patagonia. This is not an academic presentation, I simply want to share an overview of this interesting area. I'm sure you're all familiar with these postcard images of Cerro Torre, the lake and the glacier from different angles, also from the height of Pliegue Tumbado. And if you're very lucky, you might be able to get a view like this from near the summit of Cerro Torre. We're going to analyze different aspects of this glacier. I'm sure you're also familiar with this trail map showing how to get there from El Chalten. And if you have an interest in geomorphology like I do, I recommend that you study this paper, which describes the Holocene glacier fluctuations, that is, in the last 10,000 years. If you look at this map in detail and you walk the area, you will be able to identify meltwater channels, ice-sculpted bedrock, and moraines in the first place left behind by the glacier. Despite all, of course, the detail that we now get on modern maps, barely 100 years ago, the area was little known. And for example, this map, published after the expeditions of the German Scientific Society, shows to what extent the area was not properly mapped. Because the area was not properly explored at the time, the border with Chile runs in a rather incongruous way. De Agostini was the first to publish a map that is more or less, I wouldn't say reliable, but at least displays the valley of some of the glaciers, of the major glaciers in the area. De Agostini also took some interesting photographs, which arguably are the first ones of the area. As we shall see, at about the same time, the German photographer Ernst Standhardt was in the area. Unfortunately, we don't have dates for his pictures, which can be found in this very interesting book put together by Patricia Halvorsen and Luis Ibarra Filemon. And but like I said, Ernst Standhardt arrived in the area sometime in the 1920s, but his photographs could be much later, from the 40s or so. Anyway, these two pictures that I'm going to show now display, in a way, the health of the glacier, evinced by these, well, by the active-looking front. These are winter photographs. Also in the 40s, 1946, Arnold Heim was here. He provided the first, more or less, I would say, glaciological descriptions of this glacier. Also at about the same time, the Argentinian glaciologist Mario Bertone was in the area. His work was published in a 1960 inventory of glaciers. Again, we don't know, at least I don't know exactly when the photographs were taken. Of course, we had the previous photograph from the upper part of the glacier. We know it's 1948, but it was published in 1997. And this survey itself, I haven't had a chance to see it firsthand, so I cannot say much about it. We do have a lot of information from Louis Liboutry, who joined the French expedition to FitzRoy in 1952. Liboutry had a long career in glaciology in South America, more specifically in Chile. He was able to fly over the area in 1952. He was able to put together very good maps, carry out a comprehensive survey of the glaciers, and make some important descriptions. Put together this geological map, which is very interesting because it shows, among other things, the granite intrusion that makes up the core of the mountains there, FitzRoy, Torre, and its granite satellites. In 1993, he wrote this very brief paper, and also we get some information from his earlier work, because he says that this glacier which he observed in 1953, had suffered dramatic and unusual changes. He was not only talking about the front of the glacier, how it had receded by, he says, 700 meters between 52 and 81, but it also shows an improved map of the area. And here we see the three glaciers that merge to form what we call, what he decides to call the Torre Glacier. Here in this image you can see again the three tongues of ice, and even better, from the same inventory of glaciers, we can see that increasingly more debris found on the glaciers. Not so much on on Glacier Grande, but specifically in Torre and Adela, which are, like Liputri said, squeezed to the north side of Glacier Grande. Here again we can see from a bird's eye view how these three glaciers merge into the final section of the ice of the glacier. Anyway, now we're going to focus a little on this very interesting work on the little ice age fluctuations of the glacier, basically the last 300 to 400 years ago. This is a very good work by Maciocas, Lukman, Villalba, Delgado, Squarcha, and Ripalta. And I'm going to borrow some of their images to try to understand what exactly is going on with this glacier. And like they say, even though the front has not changed that much, the main factor here in the glacier's dynamic is the thinning, basically the loss of mass by thinning, as we shall see in the next pictures. You know, when one looks at these photographs, you know, at a glance would say, you know, there's not that much change, but in fact there is a change in the front, and you could say in the vigor of the glacier, to put it in a formal term. And what we do see is that the glacier has kind of deflated, you know, kind of lost mass by thinning. If we look at the front, we see also dramatic changes. However, this was only the beginning of a change that would take place from about 2011 onwards, and this is correctly ascertained and even anticipated in this paper, because they say that the ridge, which is marked there with a C, acted as a pinning point that anchored the position of the glacier front for most of the 20th century. And they forecast that once the glacier loses grip on this ridge, on this peninsula and the island, the rate at which the front will recede will change, which is exactly what happened. It is in this area actually that between 1998 to 2011, very successful glacier treks were organized throughout the season, sometimes several times during the same day, and I would say that up to 100 people were on the ice in a single day. Of course, I was there from 2001 onwards doing the glacier trek. It seemed like every day we had to go a bit further down to reach the ice. It was the lowering of the surface that was significant. All maps of that area show the glacier trek because it was a very attractive excursion that lots of people chose in those years. But then suddenly, in 2011, the ice that was still in touch with the peninsula and the slope disappeared. And when that happened, the first thing that that took place is that was the end of the glacier trek. And secondly, as it had been predicted, the rate of the glacier going back accelerated. Sometime, in the late 1990s, possibly a little earlier, as you can see in the picture on the left, the ice abandoned first the island and then slowly started receding from the peninsula. By the way, the picture on the left is me in 1994. So in a way, the idea to do this presentation was also triggered by the fact that it's been 30 years since I saw the glacier for the first time in 1992. So I developed a keen interest throughout the years on its behavior. A topic that is causing some concern, and rightly so, is that in the same area that I pointed before, as the glacier receded from the peninsula, the slope right above it has become very unstable, and this is causing some concern, because when this happens, the stability of the slope is affected, and landslides occur. People from the Servicio Geológico Minero Argentino have published this paper and have determined that there is certainly a risk. They have identified weak points in the slope, and by studying satellite photographs, but also measuring and doing observations in the ground. And the danger is that some catastrophic event caused by maybe lots of precipitation, be it rain or snow, may cause the slope to become waterlogged. Sliding of the slope could turn into a significant lake. And if that would happen, they have made very interesting maps studying, what volume of rock could be displaced and fall into the lake, and if that happens, what amount of water would be pushed into a wave that would obviously flow out of the lake down valley, past the town of El Chalten, and still some distance on the way down, causing damage to infrastructure and danger to inhabitants. I think that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation.